story.
Thank you.
Thank you. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelenskyy leaves the G7 summit in Canada without a joint statement of support from members or a meeting with U.S. President Donald Trump, who departed early to address the Israel-Iran conflict. A Canadian official stated that the U.S. blocked a strong G7 statement on the war in Ukraine, prompting Canada to drop plans for a unified declaration. The group instead issued a watered-down chair summary, which included support for President Trump's efforts on peace and a call for both Ukraine and Russia to observe an unconditional ceasefire. Despite the lack of a joint G7 stance, leaders apart from Trump expressed support for Ukraine. UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer met President Zelensky at the summit. The two agreed to drive forward the next stage of military support and to convene the next coalition of the willing meeting in the coming weeks. Canada, which holds the G7 presidency this year, announced $2 billion Canadian in new military aid to Ukraine, along with fresh sanctions on Russia. Let's listen in to what Carney had to say about the Russia-Ukraine war.
With our international partners, we're launching a major new package of sanctions on individuals, on companies, on vessels, the Shadow Fleet, to exert maximum pressure on Russia. We're also sending over $2 billion in funding for drones, ammunition, armored vehicles. Ukrainians defend their territory, as well as a $2.3 billion loan to help rebuild the infrastructure in that country. And take a moment to reiterate our condolences given the barbarism witnessed overnight in Kyiv caused by Russia.
Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney also met Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi at the summit. The two agreed to appoint new high commissioners, signaling a thaw in diplomatic ties that had been strained since 2023. Take a listen into what Modi and Carney said separately about India-Canada ties.
विश्वास है कि प्रधानमंत्री जी के चुनाव के बाद मुझे पहली बार मिलने का मौका मिला है, तो इस चुनाव के भव्य विजय के लिए भी मैं उनको बधाई देता हूं और आने वाले कालखंड में उनके साथ भारत और कनाडा मिलकर के अनेक क्षेत्रों में प्रगति करेंगे। बहुत-बहुत धन्यवाद।
We have had a discussion, the Prime Minister and I, about the importance of having the law enforcement to law enforcement dialogue, which is not just dialogue, cooperation directly, the importance of addressing transnational repression, as I noted, including when we met, and obviously there is a judicial process that's underway, and I need to be careful about further commentary.
Numerous bilaterals were also held on the sidelines of the G7 summit. Indian Prime Minister Modi also met South African President Cyril Ramaphosa and Australian Prime Minister Anthony Albanese. He held talks with Mexican President Claudia Sheinbaum on boosting cooperation in trade, pharmaceuticals, and science, as well as technology. Meanwhile, President Trump held a phone call with Sheinbaum after canceling their scheduled in-person meeting at the summit. And finally, French President Emmanuel Macron announced that France will host the next G7 summit in June 2026 at the Alpine spa town of Evian-les-Bains. Joining me on the telecast is my colleague Megha Sharma, Senior